Hey guys, this is going to be the Vengeance Demon Hunter Mage Tower Tank Challenge Guide. So, starting off, trinkets. You generally want to go for DPS trinkets. You can use survival ones if you really need it, but generally you want damage for the extra damage for this because that's heavily important in this challenge. For consumables, Drums of Fury for the Lust, Flask of 7 Demon for the Agi, Defiled Augment Rune, Potion of the Old War, and then either Verse Food or Bear Tartar for the movement speed. I personally use Bear Tartar, and I know some other guys did it, so it's just preference. As far as gear requirements go, I did it at 898 eye level. The lowest I've heard of is 897 eye level. However, I do recommend that you be 910 or higher if you are going to attempt this. At least 905. And get Erupting Souls, the artifact trait. For talents, I ran with Abyssal Strike, Fallout, Flame Crash, Soul Rending, Quicken Sigils, Fell Devastation, and Last Resort. Other people liked Razor Spikes, Burning Alive, Fracture, Spirit Bomb, and Soul Barrier. All of them are usable, but the one that I used is just what I found worked for me. So find whatever works for you, whether you need damage or survival or whatever. As far as legendaries go, Archimon's, Kil'jaeden's Wish, Gloves, Boots, and Sephuz are all good for this, and it really just depends on what you have available for you. So, throughout the encounter, Velen's going to spawn Holy Ward orbs every 30 seconds or so. So what these orbs do is they heal your party to full, that's you, Velen, and Corvus, and they interrupt everything around you. So the first ad that's going to come up are these Tormenting Eyes. So if you did Vault of the Wardens, it's basically the same thing as those. They glare at you, and after 3 seconds, it'll do a cast that knocks you back. So all you have to do is kill them, and you're going to try to manage them, try to kill them as much as possible. Next up, we have the Nether Horrors. These guys, they cast Nether Storm. It's a 3.5 second cast. So it's a build up, and then once that 3.5 seconds is done, then they start a pulsing channel. So ideally you want to interrupt them as soon as the initial charge up is done, because if you interrupt them while they're still charging, then once they get unsilenced or incapacitated, they will recast whatever Nether Storm. So you want to line up your sigils. You can use Sigil of Silence and Sigil of Misery to take care of these. You do one for each, so Sigil of Silence, then Sigil of Misery for the next pack, and then Silence for the next pack, and you keep going and you rotate throughout the entire rest of the fight. If you want, you can use Arcane Torrent or the Orbs to also interrupt this. However, only use those as backup and don't use it as part of your primary rotation. So that way you can use them, that way you have them for backup, because sigils take a moment they take a second or two to explode, but Arcane Torrent and the Orbs will go out instantly. Next we have the Infernals. So these Infernals, they're going to pulse damage, they're constantly hurting themselves, and then once in a while they're going to cast Smash. So it's that black line. And what that does is it does damage to you, and then it knocks you back. So if you do get hit by it, you're going to have to either glide back or Infernal Strike back. Otherwise, you're most likely going to get knocked off the platform. So how you manage those is you basically ignore them, and you constantly will kite, move around, get away from them. And then once they die, they turn into a green puddle, and they'll slowly heal back up to full. Once they heal back up to full, they'll come back to life. And they spawn roughly every 50 seconds, and it takes about 40 seconds for them to heal back up to full. And they only spawn in phase 1, same with the eyes. So you want to try to get out of phase 1 as fast as possible. Generally, you're going to get out of it with about 4 Infernals. If you're a little bit slower, you'll get 5, but the less Infernals you have, it makes phase 2 slightly easier because they stay alive in phase 2. Eyes don't stay alive in phase 2. As far as the boss goes, he has 3 abilities: Aura of Decay, Mind Rend, and Drain Life. Aura of Decay is that puddle around him, and it puts a stacking debuff on you that lowers your health by 10% for each stack, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So you ideally want to get out around 3 to 4 stacks, and on the pull you can stay to like 5 or 6 and be fine, but generally around 3 to 4 stacks you want to get out of it. For Mind Rend, you just cast in Power Rewards when he's about to get a cast off, and then it'll be up for that Mind Rend as well as the next one. So you can get two hits out of it, or out of the Power Rewards. And then finally, Drain Life is his ability that you have to interrupt, otherwise he's going to heal up. And you just, whenever he goes to cast it, he starts to channel, you interrupt it. Ideally, you want to interrupt it as soon as he's about to get the cast off. So that way, because while he's casting that, he's not casting something else, but if you interrupt him, he's going to start casting Mind Rend. So the longer you do that, the more you can manage it. So once he dies, Cruel comes down, all the eyes disappear, the horrors and the Infernals will stay alive, and then you get these 3 barriers that will go across the platform and they'll constantly push you back. You can either leap over them or Infernal Strike over them, either way works. And they spawn every 20 seconds or so. So going into here, he's going to do his leaps. Roughly every 15 seconds he's going to do that leap that does the green puddle on the ground. So you want to save your Infernal Strikes for either getting out of a leap or for getting to an orb. So don't use them offensively. Only use them for movement. He's also going to be casting Twisted Reflection, and what that is he puts a debuff on you that heals him every time he attacks you, and the only way to clear it is to use an orb. So you have to interrupt it. If you don't interrupt it, you can try to get an orb and get rid of the debuff, and that can save you, but ideally you don't want it to go off, so interrupt it. And finally, his major ability is Annihilate, which if you're Alliance, you can Shadow Meld it, and when you Shadow Meld it, it'll put the debuff on, or he'll attack Corvus and put the debuff on him. So what it does is he hits you for a large amount of damage, then he puts a debuff on you for 130% increased damage taken, and that's all damage taken. And it stacks up, and so over time, eventually you're just going to die because you're just going to get too many stacks and you can't survive it. So ideally you'd have a rotation for this. You would go Demon Spikes for the first one, Demon Spikes and Firebrand for the second one, Demon Spikes and Metamorphosis for the third one, and for the fourth one, Last Resort. And in between this, you can either use Imprison, Sigil of Misery, Stuns, or Orbs, as you can see here, to stun him, and it'll stop his cast, but then he's going to cast it shortly after that. So it kind of postpones it. So as you can see here, I use this to finally finish him off, and because it dazes everything, including the boss. So once you do that, that's the end of the fight. The fight is primarily mechanic based and DPS based. It's not as much survival. So as long as you can manage mechanics and you can put out some damage, that's why the higher eye level helps a lot, because it helps lower the damage requirement for it, and make you focus on mechanics a little bit more, and you're not as worried about the survivability. So I hope this guide helped you guys out and made this a little bit easier to manage for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop into Discord, or if you want the written version of the guide, check out Wowhead. It's under the Vengeance Demon Hunter guide there. So thank you for watching, and see you guys next time.